Drop a gem.
Oh yeah.
But for me, it was a serious situation because I actually studied martial arts. And I studied martial arts because I was born with respiratory problems.
Oh wow.
So my father basically sent me to a martial arts school, to toughen me up in the very beginning. But then, while I was there, I learned how to breathe totally different.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I didn't suffer as much when it came to respiratory problems. So for me, that whole martial arts thing was always a serious side to me. And I just figured that, since it changed my life because of breathing and because of the respiratory problems, and I was able to rhyme the way in which I was rhyming. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I felt that, because of martial arts, it helped me to accomplish a lot within the music industry to this day. So I didn't really feel no way with Wu-Tang coming out with the whole martial arts thing either, because for me, I was like, well, I know we weren't the only ones that were sitting down there watching karate flicks, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I just figured that, we both did it different, and we represented martial arts in two different ways. They got more attention on it because of the usage of the samples and the cult following that they have, along with RZA doing the background for movies and stuff like that. So I'm not one of those people that's going to hate on stuff like that. So I mean, if that was supposed to work for them that way, then that was in God's plan. I never felt no way about it. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
Now, yo, that's dope. Now, talking about being that you talk about martial arts and all that, did that have anything to do with the name Fu-Schnickens? Because that name is real unique and all that. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Fu-Schnickens was a name that Mafu and Pafu made up. That meant fusion because we all fused our unique styles to come up with our own sound. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the whole martial arts thing came from my angle, kind of, which was me saying that, every time I get on the mic, I'm going to introduce a different style, you know what I mean? And that could never be duplicated. And that's how we put everything together as far as that goes.
Absolutely. You mentioned style, and I think we might have just jumped ahead a little bit. You have one of the most unique styles, in all the hip-hop, man. There was only a couple of you guys, who rhymed with that speed and the cadence, and and you were pretty much like, maybe I wasn't really up on Twisted like that, but you might have been like the first one that I've saw a rhyme like that. Talk a little bit about how that style come about and crafting that, and how did that whole thing come about?
Well, I mean, the style came about, like I said, from ska music and listening to the different cadences on ska music and reggae music along with soca music. So when everybody else was repeating the word more than once to create a sentence, I was able to do full sentences at the time. So it wasn't me trying to repeat sounding like I was saying one word, where everybody was like, well, he's saying the same word over the time. So I think I was one of the first people to actually say an entire sentence and was saying sentences within the cadence. And I think that's what, why people gravitated to me more, because I wasn't repeating the word. You know what I mean? And I think that over the years is when people now started to, instead of double time and using one word, they started making sentences. So the only other person after me that I heard do that was Twister, because he was able to do full sentences. And then from there, you started hearing other people like Bone Thugs who were able to harmonize in double time and full sentences. So for me, there's artists that were way before me that are from England in the late 70s, like in 79, who was doing it. Like there's Levi and Tipper Irie and all these people from Saxon Sound, and those are the people that I learned from. But they were doing the same thing. They were saying, they were doubling on the one word and then would finish a sentence. So when I was sitting there at 11 years old, I was like, I don't want to double the word. I want to say a full sentence. So, I just figured out a way to just get it done at that time. But yeah.
How long did it take to perfect that? You mentioned 11 years old. Like how long did it take to to perfect that style? I imagine it's like punching in, or was it just walk me through that, like in the studio when you spitting those crazy a mile a minute words.
For me, it was never really like punching in or whatever. It was me saying where I was gonna do what I was gonna do, and I would tell the engineer that, after I record this one line, I'm gonna record it twice, and we picked the one that sounded more audible.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of them came out all audible, so I never had a problem.
Right.
You know, I think one of the big, first big monumental achievements in the career of the Fu-Schnickens, but even before you guys got signed, was the Howard University show. You're doing a show with Rakim, L.O.N.S., Little Sean, Tribe Called
Right.
Quest, Edo and the Bulldogs, and you guys weren't even signed yet, and these guys were all trying to, establishing themselves as artists. Talk about that moment, because that's what got you the record deal with Jive. Talk about that moment, if there was any intimidation, fear, nervousness, having to perform, opening for these big dogs, and, trying to make a mark for yourself at that time.
Well, first and foremost, this all goes back to high school for me, because we were basically opening up for leaders of the new school. Now, myself and Buster went to high school together, which was Tilden High School, before we went to Westinghouse. So we always had, we were always cool. So when I got into the industry, or was telling him that I have a group or whatever, he was like, well, if we ever do any shows, you can open up for us. So they were on the same bill also. So we all drove down together to this Howard University show. My brother actually went to the school. Roger Collymore was there, and he was cool with Puff, and he was like, yo, you need to put my brother on the bill or whatever, my brother in his group. So, my brother and Phil Pabone, well-known dude in the industry, worked out where I was able to open up, for that, the group was able to open up for that show, which led to a ton of other shows. And at the time, when a Jive representative was at the Howard University show and was like, yo, whenever you guys get back to New York City, let me know. We'd like to see you guys perform then. And then, it just took off from there. We just started doing all of the Amanda Shear and Puffy shows, and all the competitions throughout, all of the clubs. And I won. One of the best competitions, they had a reggae competition, a hip-hop competition at this club called Woody's. And I signed up for both competitions.
Wow.
And I won the hip hop competition and won the reggae competition.
Incredible.
You know what I'm saying? And I think from there, that's when Jive was like, nah, we gotta sign the group, because this kid won both competitions and was up against 10 other people on the hip hop side and 11 dudes on the reggae side, and he's the last one standing on the stage for both competitions. So.
Indeed.
All right, talk about one of my favorite albums growing up in the 90s, going to high school, was F.U. Don't Take It Personal.
Okay.
You have Tribe Called Quest, producing 3 tracks on the album. You got Lash Move with Fife. Drez is on a song producing as well. I mean, it's almost like you guys were like the babies of the native tongue, so to speak, what I'm saying, but never
Right.
officially being put onto the group. Talk about just building with those brothers at that time, if the making of the album, and if there was ever any discussion of you guys actually being you and L.O.N.S. being actually part of the native tongues.
I think that we're all babies of a Tribe Called Quest, the Jungle Brothers. So I think the beautiful part of it was Malik Fife Dog, basically his mom and Pac's mom grew up together in Trinidad. So they always kept in touch with each other. So Malik would come on the block and play football with us when we were younger.
Wow.
So I knew Malik from way before, Tribe Called Quest or whatever. So to finally get to a point where we got signed, Malik was like, well, we got to do a record together. So that's how Lash Move happened.
Wow.
And the funny part about it is we recorded True Fu-Schnick, Lash Move, Heavenly Father, and then another I think we did Check It Out with Drez.
Right.
In the same day, to be honest with you.
Incredible.
But we were just working out of 2 different studios. So I would be in one session with Ali, I drop my verse and run over to the session with Drez, and end that verse, run back in to do Heavenly Father.
Wow.
And, help the girls harmonize or whatever, and we just got it all done within that week. You know what I mean? So it was. Then from there, a lot of people, they started saying that we were like one of the first groups that Tribe produced for outside of themselves.
Right.
So automatically, a lot of people thought that we were part of the native tongues, and then De La Soul, I was on Balloon Mind State.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Doing a few things, and then
Mhm.
from there,
Yeah,
people
IMIB.
were like, right. People were like, you know something? I think that they're actually part of native tongues, and I started questioning myself, like, yo, are we really part of native tongues or not? So then I came to understand that we weren't the only groups that was questioning that. Then you had Leaders of the New School
Right.
questioning. Then you had Beat Nuts,
Right.
because it wasn't that whole era with the Beat Nuts, and because they sound totally different. So everybody's like, so the Beat Nuts is part of native tongues. How did that come about? But what stamped it for us was the fact that Flavor Unit came along and Latifah started managing us. So then everybody was like, okay, so Latifah, who's part of Native Tongue,
Right.
is managing them at the time.
Right.
And Fife is basically damn near cousins with Pop Fu, and Chip and Ali have an incredible relationship, so they got to be part of the
Right.
Native Tongue, which worked in our favor. And normally when there's Native Tongue shows or whatever, our names come up all. Anytime there's any Native Tongue talk, you know what I mean? It's kind of like the Bush Babies, where you didn't really see the Bush Babies till after the Fu-Schnickens.
Right.
And, Ali linked production to them also. So then, that's where most of the branches started coming from, when the production was shared between Ali and Q-Tip for different groups. And then I think that's what spawned the leaves off of the whole Native Tongue tree, where you have the Bush Babies, and then the Bush Babies did the song with Mos Def, which was the love song.
Right.
Then everybody started wondering if Mos Def and Talib Kweli were part of the Native
Right,
Tongue
because
song. So
Most was on De La's album too. Yeah.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Then all those things started spawning. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man. Just to let you know, man, that album at that time was definitely one of my favorite albums of that whole era. And you had nothing but
man.
crazy bangers on there. So
appreciated.
salute to you and the whole Fu-Schnickens camp. Just to hear you speak of that song "Heavenly Father" was on, which was one of my favorites on there. And at that time, there was a lot of gangster hip hop going on, street hip hop. So, what made you take the different approach to go on a righteous note? I know there was also groups like Poor Righteous Teachers and stuff like that. But what made you take that righteous approach on that song?
I mean, for me, that was one of my favorite records growing up.
Yep.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that was the only record on the demo that we used for our album, which was that Heavenly Father song.
Wow.
I was thinking, we gotta at least, pay homage to how we were raised, for one. You know what I'm saying? Even though I was a straight knucklehead out there in the streets or whatever, I knew right from wrong because of how I was raised, and I didn't want to just end the album with it just being about, just having fun. At some point, you had to say something, and we all got on the same page to do the Heavenly Father thing. I was happy that they allowed us to clear the sample, and that became a favorite to for a lot of people. I'm glad that it worked out the way in which it did. And from that, the young lady who sang that song,
Right.
which is kind of strange, from there she got a deal, and she sang, this is just totally off and left. She's the one who sang "Put It in Your Mouth" for Akinel.
Wow.
Crazy.
Incredible.
So it's just weird when she's singing Heavenly Father, and
Word, yeah, right.
She ends up on that record or whatever, and then gets her own solo deal, from singing on the Fu-Schnickens record, which was cool. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You're talking about that album. I read somewhere that you guys did that at Battery Studios. Talk a little bit about working at Battery Studios, especially with Bob Power, who was a powerhouse, who was an incredible engineer at the time. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Bob Powers is not from this planet, man. I think that, I think what he was hearing, we were never hearing. And we got to a point where we were comfortable enough to be like, Bob, whatever you say, when he would echo snares and drop music in the weirdest places, I think all of that came from when he used to mix rock records. You know what I mean? So you have a person that used to mix rock and blues records from a while ago, sitting down with hip-hop records that had jazz influence. It was easier for him.
Right.
So I think the best thing about Battery Studios is every room was used by someone that was that was on their come up, because you had Tribe on their second album, you had us on our first,
Right.
you had Souls of Mischief, who was down there doing some stuff at some time. So the whole studio just had this kind of magical vibe to it, and De La was recording over there most of the time. So,
the energy.
So, the energy was real crazy. And at those times, what's his name used to come in there? Hold on, what's dude's name? From the Nerds, what's his name?
Pharrell? Or Chad?
Yeah. He used to come and Skateboard P used to come in there and sit down. He used to be in a Tribe session.
Wow.
Because no one knew he was. I didn't know he was a producer at the time.
Right, because he was working with Teddy Riley at that time, right?
Right. But he was in there absorbing that kind of vibe also.
Yeah.
You had people that used to come in there and just sit down and absorb, like Buster, for instance. You thought at some point that he was like the other member of Tribe, because he was always in the sessions. But I think what he was taking from the sessions was the creativity, because it was a lot of creative energy in those sessions. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Staying on the album and sonically and aesthetically, classic album. Ring the Alarm. You set it off with True Fu-Schnick. There's so many bangers, but let's just be honest. When La Schmoove touched down, that was the record. That was the one, man. I remember Ralph used to play that record. And Fife comes out of the crowd and you rhyming crazy, and talk about that La Schmoove. How big of a record was that for you guys? And when you did that record, did you automatically know, like, okay, this one might go?
I think the weirdest thing is every record that we did, there was a story behind it, because when we released Ring the Alarm, Ring the Alarm was not Ring the Alarm. People heard it in New York, but the buzz for Ring the Alarm started in Canada.
Wow.
And we went gold in Canada in a month.
Wow.
With Ring the Alarm.
Wow.
So that's when the rush for the album started happening, because Jive was like, wait a second. The only people at that time that was going gold in Canada was Dream Warriors, who was from Canada.
Right.
So they was like, how do we have a group that's not from Canada that's going gold in Canada in a month? It's because of the whole West Indian influence, especially on some hip-hop beats. So from there, we started rushing to do the album. When we got back and we dropped La Schmoove, we didn't know how big it was until I think we performed with Naughty by Nature in Miami. And as soon as the beat started, like the entire crowd jumped on stage and rushed us, and then they had to remove us from the club.
Wow.
So I was like, we need to perform this song more, because we were stuck on True Fu-Schnick and Ring the Alarm and everything else. It was like, no, that La Schmoove is crazy right now. And then, that helped to move the album to like the 490 mark. And then everything else that we dropped after that just brought the album to gold and platinum.
Right. Well, that brings me into my next question was how big was it for you back then? Because hip hop was a tri-state thing, Philly, and then you had some parts in the West Coast. We weren't really up on Texas and all the other parts of the Midwest that were popping at that time, because New York was more popular. But how big was it for you guys to go gold? Because that was a rarity. Like the big acts, like the Public Enemies, the Big Daddy Kanes. Like even the G-Raps weren't going gold then, and they were critically acclaimed. But you guys managed to push it with 3 amazing singles. How big was that for you guys? And where did you guys see the trajectory of your career at that point? Starting with a gold debut.
I think that with the gold debut, what it did was it put Jive in a position to take us more serious. But taking us more serious meant that they were going to try everything in their power to make us cross over, which wasn't really what they should have done.
Right.
Because we already, the records were crossing over for themselves. You had the record like Sneaking Up on You, which was on the CD4 soundtrack.
Right.
And then we became Real Soundtrack Happy Adams Family Values. We was the only person to do a hip-hop record for Die Hard with a Vengeance. We were the only hip-hop act that was on these soundtracks sometimes. You know what I mean? So when Jive, got wind of that, they was like, all right, so, our guys has this pop feel to it. It's pop feel to it. This album has, this group has a pop feel to it. so we need to make additions. And I think that when they started making additions is when we started, starting to nig on certain things. And then when we took the Nervous Breakdown album into our own hands, then again we proved to them, with a gold single and gold album that we knew what we were doing. And then at that time we really didn't want to creatively. We started bumping heads because first and foremost we're not Will Smith.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're not Will Smith. You have Will Smith on the label. We're not going to do a boom, boom, shake the room. We're not going to do that. That's
right.
That wasn't, you know what I'm saying? So for us, it was just like either we're going to stick with our sound and move forward, which was basically getting production from Ali. And at the time, we were doing production with Salam Remy.
Right. Diamond D.
Yeah, we were doing production with Salam Remy. And the weirdest thing is, what is that? The song by the Fugees, the Fuji La beat, which was done by Salam Remy,
Right.
was made for Fat Joe first.
Wow.
Salam Remy made that beat for Fat Joe, and he was like, "Yo, I made the beat because it sounded like this big guy is walking in the room, so I made the beat to fit Fat Joe."
Crazy.
Fat Joe ain't like the beat.
Wow.
We came in there, he played the beat for us, and I was like, I don't even know, from what angle to attack this song.
Oh, man.
We didn't like the beat, and then later on,
Wow.
we heard Fuji La and was like, you gotta be kidding me. We had that beat? Nah.
So you said, you talked about how the label was trying to push you more in a pop forum. Talk about the making of Nervous Breakdown, and especially, What's Up Doc, because I think the story behind the song is so fascinating, how you guys had the Bugs Bunny sample, and it was a demo, and then you couldn't clear it, and then all of a sudden you did the link to Shaquille O'Neal. So talk about the making of that, how that became your biggest record, top 40 pop record,
I think what it was is I was watching Space Jams, and I was like, yo, it'd be dope if we were able to sample Bugs Bunny and do a record because of, Space Jams was big at the time.
Right.
Indeed.
So the record was done with the Bugs Bunny sample in it. And then Jive was like, you can't use it. So I said, something, I'm going to erase it because I took the Bugs Bunny sample directly off of a cartoon tape. And they was like, nah, we can't, Warner Brothers is going to sue us because of whatever. So I just said, why don't we just say it? So we changed the chorus, and we shelved the record for a little bit. And then I'm not one of them dudes that was into sports. My other two members were. And, I got wind that, Shaquille O'Neal, and you're his favorite rapper, and this is his favorite group. And I was like, I don't even know who do this.
Oh, shit.
They flew us down there. I'm standing there looking at this tall guy talking to me, and I'm like, all right. So then I started understanding, okay, he just got, a draft pick, blah, blah, blah. And, he could rhyme or whatever. And I was like, all right, well, let's go to the studio. So he was like, yo, I can rhyme, trust me. He can DJ, like really, really DJ, mix, blend, all that other stuff. Way before he was rock, yes.
Wow,
that's crazy.
It's nothing to him. It's nothing to him. Like if you look up on YouTube about Shaq DJing and seeing him mixing and blending records and scratching and transforming, he was able to do that back then. So me hearing he could rhyme, I was like, all right, well, jump, kick something. So then he kicked something in the studio. I was like, something, I have a record that you should jump on. Let's see how you do on this record. So then he jumped on the What's Up Doc record, and at the time, Arsenio was like, yo, I want to interview Shaq. Shaq was like, I'm not going to be interviewed unless you interview me and my group. As a matter of fact, don't interview me. Let us perform.
Right, I remember that.
So I think that when we performed is when Jive was like, yo, they got another record. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's not stopping with these guys. So then when we released that was a gold single.
Right.
Within, I think, 4 months or something like that. That was like a gold single. And then it led to Shaquille getting his deal and his album going platinum and all that other stuff. So.
Wow.
So with that being said, the album comes out about a year later and probably doesn't do as well as probably you guys would have wanted it to. Would you attribute that to the label or was
What, the second album?
Yeah.
No, the second album went gold.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
Nice.
second album went gold because of What's Up Doc.
Mm.
So we at that point in time when What's Up Doc dropped, we started recording our album. We stopped for a minute and started to help Shaquille finish his album.
Oh, okay.
So that's why when you notice on his album, he has What's Up Doc on his album also.
Right.
We have What's Up Doc. So what it was is Jive was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make What's Up Doc an EP in the beginning, which is considered an album.
Mm-hmm.
Put it out there, went gold, then split it and put it on both albums.
Mm.
So it helped to sell his album and it helped to sell the second album.
Okay. So then going from the second album, going gold, What's Up Doc is a big song. Did the label open up a budget for the third album, or or did you guys just?
No, we're still on the second album. That's because remember we're in between.
Right.
So What's Up Doc is writing. So they opened up an incredible budget for the second album.
Okay.
So that's where Breakdown and all this other stuff came from. Because then that's when we were working with Eric Sermon. I was doing writing with Eric Sermon for Shaq's album.
Right.
Using Eric Sermon's production for the Fu-Schnickens album.
Mm.
So, I mean, that's when things really took a change for us because we had the biggest record in L.A., the biggest record around the time that Death Row was out there, which was Breakdown.
Right.
Now,
well, because had that Zap sample in it.
Exactly. Everybody thought that we were from Long Island or Jersey. Because they weren't able to really think Flatbush when we heard that record.
Right.
And now they're like, well, where are these kids from? They from Long Island? It's like, no, these kids are from East Flatbush, Brooklyn. It's like, so where did they get that sound from? So we dropped that single. It went crazy in L.A., and that's when we started selling a whole bunch of copies. And then Jive was like, yo, there's no stopping this whole situation. We did a show with Bad Boy. We did a show. It was Drew Down.
Wow.
Master Flex was
okay.
DJing.
Right.
Craig Mack and Biggie and us.
Wow.
We headlined the show in LA.
Crazy.
So that's when we actually knew that the record was crazy because it was like, nah, the Fu-Schnickens got a headline. So we went out there and started doing True Fu-Schnick Lash Move and all that other stuff. They were not feeling it. But when Breakdown dropped, the place went haywire, and we had to perform Breakdown like 5 or 6 times.
Incredible.
That's when we knew, and that's when the company knew, like, all right, we have a group that basically they have a sound, but they're not afraid of using sounds. You know what I mean? So then we had, Dre wanting to produce for us, and
really,
because Dre was like, I didn't even know how you guys orchestrated something like that, because that sounded like something that I would do. But then you got to notice, you got to really think about this. Right after we dropped that record, everything from Death Row had a person doing the deep voice in the chorus.
Crazy.
Before that, they weren't doing that.
That's insane. Wow, that's incredible observation. I never would have, you saw that firsthand. That's nuts. So
right. No one was doing that. Like Nate Dogg wasn't doing those choruses like that at the time.
Right.
Until after Breakdown dropped, then you started hearing them on a lot of choruses with the deep voice.
What, you talked about being in LA doing that show with Big and Puff and Craig Mack. What year was this? Like early, like 92, 93?
Nah, that was right, like the latter part of '93.
So this is like Flavor in Your Ear, like around that time.
Yeah.
What was the reaction like? Because I know it was a little tumultuous for them. I know that came later on, but what was like the reaction to Biggie and them performing out there? And were they getting love out there in LA at the time?
Yeah, he was getting the most love in the world out there. That's why we were saying, hold on, why don't we switch places with him? And then they was like, no, this crowd ain't gonna feel that. Biggie gets love out here. Craig Mack, they did the whole thing where Craig Mack came out, then Biggie came out, and then, and they did their thing. But then they was like, nah, it's time for you guys to go out there. I was like, we can't go out there after him doing those records. But to our surprise, we went out there, and when we did Breakdown, it was mayhem.
Crazy.
So you have this huge record in L.A. with Breakdown. What's Up Doc goes gold. So then, where does the train stop, so to speak?
Well, that was the train stop because of the whole internal stuff. You have people feeling that they wanted more money. You have people feeling that they weren't getting enough shine as they're supposed to. And I think when all those internal things happen is when you have to stop the train, because it's like, listen, you're not who you are anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I can't make music with you if you're not that person that I'm used to making music with. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's when we had to slow things down and say, either we're going to continue to do this music thing or just leave it alone, because, it makes no sense. Especially trying to come out with another album and it sounds terrible. I think those two albums, we said enough as a group.
Right.
Because coming out to say anything else within that time and with the changes, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Right. So then No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue your thought, brother. My bad.
No, I'm good.
No, so then the group dissolves, and then, how do we get to you deciding, okay, I'm going to start Black Ink, I'm going to be the solo artist, I'm going to tap more into my Caribbean vibe, and play around with the dancehall reggae aspect as well as the hip hop. Talk about your evolution as an artist and how that led to the 2 mixtapes and the Warpaint album that was supposed to come out in 2013, 2014. Talk a little bit about that evolution and what happened with all that stuff.
First and foremost, I was actually, like, right after the Fu-Schnickens thing dissolved, myself and Fu, we moved to Oakland. When we moved to Oakland, Dawn from In Vogue, her boyfriend, used to work at the same studio that we worked at. He heard some new stuff we were doing, and he took the new stuff over to Aftermath. We were going to get signed to Aftermath along with Special Ed.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that. Dre was going to sign Special Ed and us. We were going to be the last 2 acts that he signed. But then we ended up doing a deal with Howard Kaufman, who managed all the big rock acts like White Snake, Janet Jackson, and all that stuff. He put together a label and got distribution through BMG. And then the distribution fell through or whatever. So from then on, I was saying, it's time for me to just leave, the whole Fu-Schnicken thing alone and just move forward. So I said to myself, well, the very first record that the Fu-Schnickens released was actually a dancehall record.
Right.
There's no way around it. It was a dancehall record. So I released a record called Lovely Sensi on the Collie Buds rhythm at the time.
Right.
What happened is no one knew it was me in New York City. They stopped playing Collie Buds record. They stopped playing the G-Unit mix that they spent so much money for. Sony sent me a cease and desist and sent Hot 97 a cease and desist when they found out that it was me.
Wow.
So I said to myself, if I can make noise just having fun and doing some records like this, I might as well focus on doing a project at the time. But I just kept feeding the masses with, different reggae records, different records that I was doing with Ali Shaheed, because at the time I signed to his Garden Seeker label, which was distributed through Penalty at the time. But it was always a problem. Every time it was my time to go up, it was like, all right, well, your album's coming out next. I said, all right, I'm ready. And, distribution folded. I was like, damn. But then I started putting out the mixtapes. I did the, Stop Playing 1.
Right.
Did Stop Playing 2. And then I was prepping the War Paint. And I said, something, I'm going to turn War Paint into a mixtape also. Then I put, the War Paint album out as a mixtape and just gave it away. You know what I'm saying? So from then on, I was able to tour extensively with the likes of Shaggy, with the likes of Conscience, and all these top reggae artists. And, when you're touring with people like that, the bread is totally different. So,
right.
And it's just me, so it wasn't about me sharing with 2 other individuals or whatever. So I just decided that, doing the solo thing was for me. And, being able to feed the market different music and stay relevant, with a different genre of music is totally different. Like I got on a show with MF Doom in Italy.
Wow.
And when I came out on stage and got off stage, he was like, yo, you Chip Fu? I was like, yeah, dude, that's me. He was like, I'd have never known that that's you. He was like, yo, those people in the States know this. I was like, nah, a lot of people don't really know that I'm able to tour over here and sell out arenas and sell out stuff like that on with some reggae records that I actually just fed the internet.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man. Can you please talk about what your experience was like getting on the Yo MTV Raps anniversary performance at the Barclays?
Legendary.
I think that was the it was a crazy show because I wanted to get on the show for one.
Right.
Nobody was getting in touch with me about the show, but then I know Scribble. So I was like, yo, Scribble, you got to be kidding me. You can't come to my borough and not have me on the show. So he was like, yo, if you could get the group to do the show, then we're good. So I sat with Scribble because I've known him for years. And he was like, yo, do me a favor, man. Help me with some of these laminates and let's put together a show. So, I'm sitting there with the laminates with him. I think he did over 5,000 laminates for people.
Wow.
And we were sitting there just talking, and he was like, yo, all right, so the Fu-Schnickens is going to come on right in between Das Effects and Onyx.
Perfect.
I said, no problem. Let me go and tell the fellas. So I went home and I told the fellas. They was like, nah. I was like, come on. This is the best opportunity in the world. You bugging out. They was like, nah, I don't, I really don't. So who got in touch with who? It was a lot of hoopla. I was like, y'all niggas is bugging. Excuse my language. Then I said, I'm just going to go do it.
Right.
So I practiced by myself. Scribble practiced with me, and he put me in the, the medley part.
Right.
And when I walked out there, I think dude from who sang that song, Not Gonna Be Able to Do It.
Yeah, Double X Posse. Yeah.
Right. He hit the turntables. But remember, it's an entire show that's done on MP3, so the whole show shifted.
Wow.
So when it shifted, they couldn't rewind it. So basically, I had no music. Like, the music started and then the music stopped in the middle. But I was able to watch the video that they were playing and link my vocals to the video that was playing, and I kept going.
Incredible.
So then, after that, I can't front. After that show is when a lot of people, the phone started ringing again for more hip hop stuff.
Right.
And I was like, nah, I'm not even going to do any group stuff anymore or whatever. So for me, I think that was the ending of the whole, that was like the full circle for me.
Wow.
Coming from Brooklyn, coming back to Brooklyn, Barclays Center, getting on stage, rocking, ripping it, and saying, well, all right, I'm just going to leave that right here. Well, what I'm saying? I'm not going to do any more Fu-Schnickens stuff moving forward. Everything else is going to be totally different. You know what I mean? So.
Indeed. You mentioning that show, the MTV Rap show, brings me to another huge show you did and another huge moment in hip hop when you guys did the Arsenio show. I think people don't give Arsenio enough credit in hip hop. I really feel he was instrumental in pushing hip hop forward in the time where it was almost on a bubble still a little bit in the 90s. He pushed it forward, put it on mainstream TV, and widened the audience, so to speak, a little bit. But his last show, and we all know the controversy behind the Farrakhan thing, wound up being his last show. Legendary show, KRS-One, Wu-Tang, Fu-Schnickens, Light, Das, just star-studded event. You guys were part of that. Talk a little bit about that whole situation. What do you remember from that day?
I remember when we all went to practice, there was no beat. We didn't know what we were going to do.
Wow.
So you had, I think they rented out Hollywood Studios, the recording side of Hollywood Studios.
Right.
And you had all these groups sitting in a room. And no one knew who was going first or what we were going to do. And we were all sitting on the ground just staring at each other. And then, that's when egos set in. And then you have people, just walking around the place figuring that, we should set it or we should do that or, we sold this amount of records. But you could just tell from movements that people were feeling themselves at the time. And I think that sitting in that room, I think the only person that changed the mood in that room was Pete Rock and Q-Tip, because Pete Rock dropped the beat. And as soon as the beat dropped, everybody started writing.
Wow.
Q-Tip jumped up and was like, yo, I'm ready. Cypher was like, yo, I'm just going to freestyle mine.
Nice.
KRS-One was like, I'm going to freestyle mine.
Okay.
Mad Lion was like, yo, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to follow KRS-One. Wu-Tang, they were trying to find out who was going to go first, but they were saying, Method Man, there's a lot of light on Method Man. This should be about the group. Let's get, two other people in the group to do whatever.
Right.
Old Dirty Bastard was like, yo, all I want is the mic.
Nice.
So that's when that whole thing at the end when he was started yelling, "The black man is God."
Peace to the gods, word.
Said that they just gonna trade bars with each other.
Wow.
What's his name? Guru was like, "Yo, I'm just gonna kick something off the top or whatever." So it was just, I think that spark is what set it off when Pete Rock threw that beat on.
Right. Incredible.
You know what I'm saying? And everybody changed, and then everybody started talking to each other. Like, listen, so who's gonna go for it first? Well, let the lady said it first. That's when Yo-Yo was like, well, I'm gonna set it off and then just pass it, MC Light, and then from there it's just gonna go into the dudes. CL, I think we came right after CL Smooth.
Right.
But CL Smooth was like, yo, I'm gonna try to listen to the. You need to hear everything I'm saying because when I'm finished, you need to just jump right in. I was like, you don't gotta worry about it.
Nice.
So it just came a thing where everybody was just flowing behind each other, and we just was lining up to make sure everything made sense. But it became one of the most incredible ciphers in hip hop.
Right, absolutely. This has been such an incredible experience with you, Chip.
Absolutely.
This has been an incredible interview. But before we let you go, I want to discuss another aspect of you as a human being, as a man, as a protector, as someone who's building and contributing to his community, and you're doing that in a really incredible way with the Math Workshop. So for our listeners, and just so they know this side of Chip Fu as well. Talk a little bit about the Math Workshop, what you're trying to accomplish with that, and what you've accomplished so far by having that curriculum in various, educational institutions across the country.
Well, for me, the whole math program was spawned from me, trying to see if MCs could actually be teachers. So I figured that I have something that can't be taught in schools, which is the history and which is the know-how and which is basically the work ethic and, being a part of this whole, the culture.
Right.
So they didn't figure that it could work in schools. So then I started the company Math, which is an acronym for Music Appreciation, Art, Time, and Healing, which I actually started in housing. So I was able to teach kids when they came home from school in housing about music, and then from there we spawned off into the diction and resume writing and how to properly present yourself in situations, and then the mentoring aspect began, and then from there a lot of schools started taking on the math workshops, and we were in 9 schools. We were in a college, St. Francis College. We taught college. We taught kids with. We were able to teach kids with special needs, and it just took a life of its own. Like I knew that it was going to work, but I didn't think it was going to get that big. Where principals are reaching out to me, especially in the ACL schools. You know what I'm saying? The suspension sites where teachers were afraid to go, and I was like, nah, I'll go. And I was able to just set up a microphone and turntable and turn music on. As soon as I turn the music on, you're getting every kid's attention. And then from there, you have kids that want to express themselves. So giving them a platform to express themselves was a beautiful thing. And then you have kids wanting to battle, and then they want to battle me, and you're too old, and you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm roasting them, and they're sitting there, and now they're understanding, like, yo, my teacher got bars, and he just roasted me. I'm just saying, it's not about the bars, it's about content, it's about writing, it's about taking the time out to study. You need to study yourself, study your voice, the power in your voice, where you say certain things high and low. So,
right.
I mean, it's been a beautiful trip for me, man. You know what I mean? And I'm just loving the fact that I'm able to give back. I'm going to go to Russia. I'm supposed to go to Russia in spring.
Nice.
They're trying to keep me there for a month to teach.
Wow.
30
Incredible.
kids,
That's beautiful.
About, the math program and everything. So I'm just liking that it's spread. I did it in Russia.
Right.
I did it in Paris. I did it in Belgium.
Oh, wow.
So, wow. I mean, that's what spawned the energy for. I was thinking to myself, as an MC from New York, I might as well teach in New York. So I was given the opportunity to work in New York City schools. So I'm happy about it.
Very commendable, man. Salute to you, bro. Seriously, that's amazing, man.
I appreciate that.
Chip, man, I listen, I really appreciate your time. You're one of those dudes from one of those groups, man, those legends. We've had a lot of them on the show. I mean, countless ones. And you guys to me were like, we joke about this shit sometimes on the show, but you guys were like superheroes. Absolutely. And shit. There's no superheroes no more in hip hop, man. It was, like from Wu-Tang to Fu-Schnicks to just these larger than life original like a superheroes. Man, Paz K laughed at him when we said that shit about him, but you guys are one of those groups. And I want to salute you and thank you for your contribution to the culture. And thank you for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate that. I'm humbled by that, man. Thank you very much, guys, for having me.
Absolutely, man. And stay up and hopefully we get you back on.
No problem. You guys take care. Thanks.
All right, brother.
All right, brother.
Peace.
Be well.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the legendary Chip Fu from the Fu-Schnickens.
Wow.
Yeah, that was awesome. This felt like, I'm just going to say this right now because for me, like, the Arsonist interview was great too. But this right now felt like, being in my boxers in the living room, doing the interviews through the phone and speakers in Virginia. Shut up. And last your crib, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like that energy, just like that feel. That energy just came back, and like just to be in the same room with y'all right now, and for G to make that happen. Salute to you, brother. That was pretty fucking amazing. So, I enjoyed that a lot, and he was an incredible interview. And, he gave a lot of insights of back in the days and shit like that. And, that was really welcome.
Absolutely. Love getting those guys on, man. Those are the, I don't want to say they're the forefathers or the founders of hip hop, but they're like the ones who kind of like cultivated my teenage years, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or, early, like teenage years, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're the ones when I really started coming into hip hop, who was like the ones that was, we talked before about like, Michael Jordan was Generation 1, or Dr. J was Generation 1, then you had Michael Jordan,
right,
and then Kobe, right? So we was like, like Furious 5 and all of them, and then Run DMC kind of at the back, and L.E.O, and then you had groups like the Fu-Schnickens, L.E.O, Mobb Deep,
Rock,
and there was just so many different, like last year, and you brought up a great point before, like, while everyone was doing this, they was doing that. Everyone was gangster. They was on some, some
spiritual shit. Yeah,
pretty much. They wasn't. They were
the first ones.
They wasn't the first, but they was one of the first. With the native tongues and all that.
Poor Righteous Teachers, BDP. There was a couple. PE.
And it's funny too, because you think of like De La Soul and them and the native tongues. They were on that Daisy Age, abstract type of vibe, tribe and all that, right? But then you had like because y'all mentioned Poor Righteous Teachers and everything, and X Clan,
right? They're on the 5%, yeah.
But there was 5% in knowledge, KRS the teacher and all that. But they was having a little bit of beef between themselves at one point, man.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I remember KRS One was beefing, talking shit about Poor Righteous Teachers, and then he had problems with X Clan. So
that was back when KRS had that whole humanity phase.
You know what I'm saying?
Like where he was like, well, I'm not just being pro-black now, I'm being a human being, and they disagreed.
And that's
with
what
that.
God bless the dead, Professor X was like, got no time to be hanging out with humanists. And that's what started the whole, KRS One, he's like kind of like me. Every time I hear a song, I think somebody talking about me and shit. I'm like, this nigga just dissed me in the joint, son. But yeah, KRS One like me and shit. But yeah, I say that to say this. Back in the days, it was a lot of diversity and a lot of like
originality,
and like I said, like superheroes, and like I wish I could articulate myself to the point where y'all could really feel where I'm coming from, because it just was that. It was like playing, what was that wrestling game when you had all the hip hop Jews in it and shit? What's the name of that shit?
Def Jam Vendetta and all that shit.
You can't make a Def Jam Vendetta now. Like, who you gonna make Def Jam Vendetta with? Like fucking
ain't nobody on that
Trippie Redd,
the Migos or some shit. No disrespect, but they don't got that.
Not disrespectful.
Russ.
Nah, but I don't mean it as disrespect. I just mean like
but that's the generations.
And Lil Nas X.
I wonder if they view them like we view these guys. I don't know.
I think they do.
You just couldn't do it because it'll be like nobody will have no special moves. Everybody will have the same move.
Like,
Lil Nas X will pop in on the horse.
Like
the horse will run on you.
Like Redman was so animated and busting, and Meth would just come out with the eye and the braids and old. Like that shit was just ill, son. Like it was theater. It was rap, but it was dead on the low. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's all, man. Shout out to Chip Fu. Shout out to Arsonist.
First two in the bag for the new year.
Crazy. You already know how we do it. Shout out to my man G the MC.
Word.
Last Measure, L.E.O. Speak No Evil. You know, we at the top. We at the top of the list right now. And I told you when I was coming back to New York, I was gonna start punching you niggas in the face. Yeah, niggas ain't fucking believe me. So now I'm here. Now you gotta deal with the shit. You know what I'm saying? Now we visual. It's gonna be a problem. And I'm gonna start pulling up on you old school rappers too. That was front on his interview at these little spots, my G. Real talk. You know what I mean? I ain't talking about pulling up on you on some violent shit. I'm gonna pull up and yo, remember the interview you promised me? What's good, nigga?
Pull up with the camera.
Nah,
like,
but real talk.
We're gonna do this interview right now in prop 2? Come on.
Hip hop's bad guy. That's me now, nigga. You know what I'm saying? That's the new moniker, man. Yo,
somebody gotta do it.
Yeah,
somebody gotta do it, right?
It's a tough job.
But yeah, man. Let me give a couple quick shout outs as always. Shout out to y'all niggas 4040. I know y'all just dropped it. Well, you just dropped the new joint. Talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah. I just dropped the Draw Side C. You know what I'm saying? Get that at Love Equals omnipotence.bandcamp.com. It's a Bandcamp exclusive. Fuck all this social media. Fuck all this Spotify bullshit. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Indeed. You want it, you get it at that one source, and that's it. It's like, you know, getting the beef and broccoli at the Dread Spot back in the days. You know what I'm saying?
If you just sold your shit exclusively on your website, could you make all those dollars?
Well, that's how Rock Mars makes his money. He puts it exclusively on his page first for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then he puts it out on the digital shit.
You gotta have a fan base. But shout out to to all my peoples, Mike Dove, my boy Deron, everybody. You know what I'm saying? All my peoples, my day ones. Shout out to my son Ray. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody in the world, man. I'm feeling great. Other than the Kobe shit, I'm feeling real good this week.
Word.
I'm out here in these streets shaking. You know, family.
Should have knocked him out.
Yeah, we was live at the. Listen, I'm gonna say, I don't even want to go there. I'm about to tell a story on the next podcast.
Nice.
It's G the MC coming out his face, coming out the side of his mouth on Freeway Ricky and not Ricky, Freeway and shit.
Hey, you don't even know what to call him.
Nah, I'm thinking Freeway Rick Ross, but I'm talking about the rapper Freeway. But it's another story. But yo, real talk, man. I said we get out of here.
Word.
A sign off, man. My voice, I'm losing my voice a little bit, but yo, stay focused, stay positive, and always stay blessed. You feel me?
Peace, party people. We will see you later. Same bad time, same bad channel. Let them know, Measure.
You already know. If you ain't dropping the gem, you just ain't saying shit.
Nothing. Shut the fuck up.